Welcome to Squirrel, the podcast for distracted writers, hosted by Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Squirrel. This is Candace.
And I'm Jody.
And this week we are, I don't know, this is kind of a hard episode. We're going to talk about radiation.
But there's a reason. There's a really good reason.
Yes, there is a reason. Well,
we're not just crazy people. Today is actually Robert J. Oppenheimer's birthday.
No kidding?
Yes.
I knew it was close. But I didn't know it was.
I think it falls on the actual day when we did our initial research.
Oh my gosh.
So if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. We'd love to hear about it.
Very good. So I don't know, a fascination with radiation. There's a lot of just things that I don't even understand with it. I thought it would kind of be fun to investigate, to talk about it. And because we're writers, we're throwing this into fiction, right? So we're going to try to use it as maybe a plot device or a magic system, or we're just going to kind of brainstorm, right? It'll be fun.
It'll be totally fun.
We
get to geek out just a little bit. We're back to my familiar stomping grounds of science and stepping out of poetry.
Yeah.
Which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Did you see Oppenheimer?
I did.
And what did you think?
I was quite surprised at some of the directing choices.
Really? Like what?
I did not expect it to get spicy.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that so funny? So my daughter who had seen it, my 17-year-old daughter had seen it, and she paused it and said, "Mom, this is what happens, and this is the plot that you need to know." And then she skipped it. So I didn't even see the spiciness.
You got the clean version? You know what? The story doesn't change.
That's what I figured.
It's just an odd little personal tidbit they threw in there. And I don't know if it's because they thought the story itself was getting a little dull.
Well,
but
from a person who didn't see the spiciness, I thought it was fine.
Sure.
I understood the plot just fine because, I guess I know the story. I knew the story. This is from part of my own curiosity. We go down these rabbit holes. So I knew the story too somewhat. I'm trying to think. Ugh, my brain's so stupid today.
But this episode isn't about Oppenheimer.
No.
This is going to actually go back to the science of radiation and how it's kind of like magic.
Yeah.
And I know that you personally get to deal with a very specific kind of radiation quite regularly.
I do. And I guess I'm like, can I say what kind it is? Because I don't want to get in trouble with the EPA. I have to follow all sorts of regulations, and these devices, they're irradiator devices that you irradiate blood with. And it has a specific source in it that could be used in nefarious ways. So the EPA has like all these different regulations, and I have to have training on it like all the time. So yeah, I know stuff. I know some stuff though. I know that if we did have a radiation leak from this thing, that it would I would die quickly, and the whole hospital would probably be quarantined for years. So isn't that fun?
Yeah, well, there was an incident in another hospital back east where they did have a problem.
It wasn't back
very
east.
Similar.
It was in Washington.
I was thinking D.C., not that back east. Very
west.
Well,
there's 3 Mile Island. That was over there.
No, I was thinking there was a hospital incident we're going off topic.
No, we're not. This is good. This is perfect topic.
It feels like it could be slightly askance from the topic.
What were you saying though?
There was
I'm curious.
There was an irradiator inside a hospital, and it was so big that they couldn't demolish the hospital because it had been installed when they built the hospital.
Okay.
And so they're like, we need to cut it down so we can we can get it out first so it doesn't expose people. And then they cut the lead shielding wrong.
Yeah.
And it caused an incident.
Yeah. No, that was in Washington State, not Washington, D.C.
And those are on different sides of the country.
Yes.
Thus my confusion.
Yes. No, I know all about this incident because we are removing our irradiator device this year. So there's there's all sorts of research and know-how that things that I have to know. But that is like the thing weighs, well, this is a big squirrel. It weighs so much because it's completely shielded with lead.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be an easy just remove this. So they get it down to the bare like shield and try to move that. But yes, that was a really scary thing that happened.
So have you been bitten by any radioactive spiders?
Funny enough, let me tell you a story. We did once irradiate a spider.
Oops.
No, it wasn't an oops. We did it on purpose. And
here you're worried about the EPA getting you for other things?
I know. Yeah, it was like we irradiated it, and I don't think that it survived. But the fly that we put in there, it flew away.
And died later.
Yeah, no, I don't know if it died later. Let's say that it bit a person and that becomes the fly, and now they have these
and
wings.
And thus tying radiation back to fiction. You're welcome. So you've used radiation because it is a way of cleaning blood.
It's not quite cleaning.
Like, I know there's a technical term for all of it. I'm not in that world, so I do not have those words.
It's inactivating. That's a good word, right? Instead of like neutralizing, it's inactivating lymphocytes. But there is a lot of reasons why radiation is used for other things, not just blood. Like,
but this is your experience.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, we could talk about chemotherapy, which is a chemical, but we could talk about radiation therapy, which is radiation.
Therapy, just
X-ray
technology.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go next because that's my experience.
Okay.
I got trained to be an X-ray tech for animals. So I had to go through an entire unit on how they work and how they're dangerous and why you wear lead shielding, because we had the thyroid guards and then we had the really cute apron. And so I have this basic understanding of ionizing radiation.
Okay.
But our family's kind of weird about studying historical radiation accident events, like Chernobyl and the Trinity test site and the Demon Core incident. We talk about this stuff because we're weird, but we love it.
I mean, I know Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island and the one in Japan that happened not too long ago. And I'm thinking, what is the demon? What was it?
Demon Core.
I don't know what
Demon Core is really, really cool. This is kind of in the early days of learning about radioactivity. And they knew that if they had these two spheres that were radioactive, and they kept them apart using these little standoffs. And the closer they could put them together, the bigger the burst of radioactivity would happen. And they were studying that. Mm-hmm. But the way they were putting them closer together was using a screwdriver. You can see where this is going to go.
Oh my gosh.
And they were pushing it up and down to see how it changed this flow of radioactivity. And they had all these protections in place. They had this big wall they could stand behind and observe what was happening. Well, the screwdriver slips. The two cores come smashing together, and everybody in the room got to see how Superman sees for just a second.
Oh my gosh.
They could see through each other. The burst was so bright. The light was so bright.
Wow.
You can imagine everybody in that room did not survive long.
Oh my gosh.
But you can look this one up. It is a
fantastic.
fascinating story.
Oh my gosh.
But it's also one of those things that's just you've got to respect the power of a radioactive element.
And when they were just learning about this stuff, I'm sure about Madame Curie, I think you put it in your notes.
I did.
But I find her story just extremely fascinating, how she her and her husband created this element and she just kept it in her pocket. I mean, nobody knew how this was going to affect people. Not until we could actually study it with scientific method, understanding, well, these people are getting sick, they're anemic, why are they dying, that kind of, what's causing that.
Did you happen to read The Poisoner's Handbook by Deborah Erb?
Nope.
There's a whole section on death by radon and radiator, and there's radium, because all of those are related to radium, which is a radioactive element. And this is where we get Radium Girls, where the jaws are falling off.
I saw that show. I did watch that.
And this is also, there was a health tonic that had radium in it.
Oh my gosh.
And
when
you
there's
first
still
started taking it,
there's uranium, the dishware or something that has some kind of...
one of the old Cornings. does the Fiesta ware is highly radioactive. Certain years of it, because one of their dyes.
Yeah, there was like a green or a
Oh,
pink.
there's the one that glows in the dark as
Yeah.
well. When we do our notes in the blog, I'm sure we will remember we had this conversation and add those.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But there is the glow in the dark. It doesn't glow in the dark. It glows under black light.
Okay.
But people
Well,
collect
yes.
them.
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh my gosh. So crazy.
They're really quite pretty.
So, okay, here we are. We're authors. And how have you seen any way that authors have used radiation as part of their magic or mythology or
Well, can we talk
plot points?
superheroes? That seems like the low-hanging fruit of this conversation.
Oh, you're right.
But so many superheroes have this weird base in radiation. Remember the time period that they were invented.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
It's amazing. And that was a cool, new, science-y thing. And so it got woven into our culture, and you can still see it in our superheroes of today. So almost all superheroes that came out of, let's say, the 30s and 40s, right in the birth of a lot of this. And I'm going to get those dates wrong. I'm no historian.
All right.
But a lot of that came from this excitement of, oh my gosh, this new element, it might cure everything. It might solve world problems.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, this is a devastatingly powerful and horrible thing.
Oh my gosh.
Oppenheimer's quote is, I have become death.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't even think of that or consider that. See, I'm thinking about when I first read Sword of Shannara. This was so long ago. That's the first of Terry Brooks's books. And he wrote it with the idea of the longest chapter in the entire novel is Al-Anon explaining the world. And he goes through how the elves how they formed and where they went and how the dwarves came about. And this all comes down to some kind of powerful radioactive event here on Earth. And this is like hundreds to thousands of years later, and how things have evolved since then. That's where his fantasy world really is seated. Now, he's gone back and written like Children of the Damned and these books that are at the beginning that tie into all of this as well. But that was my first thought of when we're thinking about radiation in fiction, is something that doesn't even have anything to do with it, but that was the foundation of how the mutations happened. And I'm trying to think of I'm sure that there's other ones. Okay, so tell me famous fictional radioactive moments in books or cinema. I think in cinema is where we can come up with.
Well, we kind of already alluded to Spider-Man, and his original story was being bitten by a radioactive spider. They have tweaked his story since then. Because
how did they tweak it?
They changed the spider. He still gets bit by a spider, but now the current lore is saying it's an alien spider. Oh. Because, like, we understand that radioactivity in a spider doesn't make any sense.
Well, but that's not how it is in Across the Spider-Verse.
Is it still saying it's radioactive?
Yeah. I mean, this person created... No, it was created... No, okay. We're going back here, and I'm sorry about all these spoilers. If you haven't seen it, it's an amazing movie.
It is.
So the first one,
I remember that.
He gets bit by the spider and becomes, Spider-Man. But the second one, it comes to fact that spider was not from that world.
Alien spider, see?
It's not an alien spider because it was created.
Alternate dimension spider.
No, but it was still created by somebody using that radioactivity.
Oh, fine.
Sorry.
Picky.
It's not alien.
But they wanted, it feels like they wanted to distance themselves from saying outright that it's a radioactive spider. It feels like they wanted to add some nuance to that and make it work scientifically, because we've evolved as a culture to understand what radiation is.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But
that's my headcanon. I'm sticking with it.
I'm willing to take that, though. I'm accepting of the radioactive spider, sure. And we irradiated it. We irradiated one, and it went off, and I don't know what happened.
And then it probably shed, and it was fine, because they can do that. Well, I mean, Another one that we've got on our list is Wrath of Khan. How does Spock die?
Yeah.
This is your example. So
Yes, it is my example. And I will take both movies. So Spock dies in the original Wrath of Khan, but it's Kirk that takes the radiation in the second one. So yeah, they have to shut down the leak, and Spock's just in there, and there's nothing you can do because he can't come out anymore. He's being exposed to this radiation. He's going to die. He's going to die. And Kirk is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did this for us to save us. And that's where he goes, I am and always will be your friend. I can't believe I pulled this from nowhere.
Deep down,
It's
you're
been
secretly a Trekkie. Deep down.
No. There's a few things. I love Wrath of Khan. It's like the best. That one and number 6, I think that's Undiscovered Country. I could watch those. And the new Khan. I liked it. I know Benedict is really dramatic, but I still super loved it.
No, it was good.
Yeah, so I did have Wrath of Khan in here.
I'm not going to steal your other example. I'm going to let you do it. Unless you want me to
Which one is it?
The Blade Runner example.
Oh my gosh, have you seen that?
I finally did.
Blade
last
Runner
month.
2049 is...
I didn't know what to expect going into it. And so...
it's like the coolest.
It's very cool. The visuals are amazing.
Right? So, and it's cerebral. But when they go to Las Vegas has been, deemed as a radioactive zone. They don't go into how or why, just that's where nobody goes in here because you'll die. It's radioactive. But yeah, visually, you walk into just a cloud of orange. The whole place is just silent. It's incredible cinematography. And that's probably my favorite part of the whole movie is when they go into that area.
And then we have Terminator, the original Terminator, they were trying to stop them using a nuclear bomb. That's why all the time travel happened. That's what I've been led to believe.
Have you seen Terminator?
Not for ages. It's been a hot minute. But it starts out with this whole Sarah Connor thing, and her son's going to be the one that's the chief general in the resistance against the robots. And
Right.
all of that. But there's that really famous nuclear bomb scene where they show just how much damage it would do, and they have it sweep through a playground. One of those cinematic moments that was really, at the time they did it, was mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. That they caught this just horrible, devastating moment and people being turned to ash in front of your eyes.
Oh.
Dark, yes.
I might have to revisit that.
So.
Well, and Schwarzenegger is butt naked in those first shots when he's...
I'm so glad that's the thing you remember.
Oh yeah, and Sarah Connor's hair is terrible.
It was the 80s.
Yeah, but
we give her some space.
Bad for the 80s. It's the worst hair that I can document that as probably the worst hair in any movie ever.
Oh, come on. All the 80s movies were bad with hair. So how are we going to use radiation to inspire us in fiction? We've got some cool points in here, actually.
Yeah.
Because how did you use it?
I used it as my magic system. So here we are. When I created the mythology of the world, there was a saturation of these different elements. And those elements are powerful in concentration. And that's what I think maybe I was in a class learning about the different isotopes, different levels of radiation, what you can be exposed to each year, what goes through paper, what goes through lead, those kind of things. That's how I created the idea of these different elements having a specific core to it. So if you were exposed to it, depending on your level, you're going to get that superpower. There you go.
Ta-da!
It's superpowers, but
because
it's within the
damaged
magic.
DNA clearly means superpower.
That's the nucleus of my magic system, actually, was doing that for my world.
I mean, I have a magic rock in mine, but it doesn't work like radiation, so I can't claim I was ever inspired.
What does it do?
It's focusing. It allows you to focus the magic. Otherwise, you can't make it obey.
Yeah, that's not done by radiation.
The same. But in terms of brainstorming, if you wanted to use a science concept such as radiation, you want to take this 3-mile view of what it is. And so I think you can go 2 directions with this. if you want to be kind of sciencey, yeah, you could use it as radiation.
You could
use
put it
exactly
down as
how it is.
specific. Yeah.
There's no rules against using it as radiation. Now, if you're in like a really sciencey world and radiation doesn't fit in that world building yet because your civilization hasn't gotten that far, you could still use this indirect idea of how a science concept such as radiation works. You know, a stone that gives power but also damages the user. An element that does X, Y, and Z but has these drawbacks kind of thing.
Right.
Like a give and take.
If you use it, if you use it this way, you get drained or I don't know. Okay. That's cool.
Like it either hurts you or it changes you or it damages the environment you're in, something like that.
That's good. That would be a good thing.
But I think
not really. But
if you're hunting for ideas and you're finding these science concepts really fascinating, taking this view back and say, oh, why is it interesting? Why is it compelling? And then you can twist that idea and turn it into a piece of your own world building and come up with some really cool stuff.
Speaking of that, I forgot that there are certain animes that have nuclear magic that they've created. And they all have specific, just like what you were saying.
Yeah.
A specific power, but there is a drawback by using these. I think Fairy Tail for sure. I know that they have nuclear magic, but there's other ones.
I'm not really well versed in anime or superheroes enough to give a really good analysis of one versus another. But I know they're out there because when I did Google Foo on this earlier, I'm like, superheroes with nuclear connections. And there was a list that was like hundreds long. I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are.
Yeah.
So they're out there.
My anime has sunsetted, so I'm not up on it either. I want to say that there probably is some kind of role-playing game also that uses this. Some kind of nuclear magic. I would.
Sure.
You know,
it is a cool idea.
Role-playing and wanted to have some kind of doom.
There you go.
Okay, final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Isn't this a funny episode?
It's quirky in all the best ways. Those are our favorite kind.
My final thought was, like, I like the idea and the terror that radiation is and what it does. There's just a uncontrolled power, a misunderstanding. We have radiation every day. We're getting a little bit of radiation from the sun daily. And fun fact, you go in airplanes, you get more radiation.
This is true.
So if you didn't even know that, it's a bit magical with with the different powers that it can create cancer, but it also can cure cancer. Using it in your fiction feels just natural because it's a power that we see and often don't understand, but there is a magic system to it with what shields it and what can't. It's just an awesome power.
And like any good magic system, it does have rules. Like it follows rules, which I think is really cool.
Yep.
And so my final thought is how I'm inspired by like how many different places we can draw creativity from and we can draw ideas from, and like science is a huge one. And so we are using this discussion about radiation and how we're talking about like how we've seen it in pop culture and how it's used and its history and some of the incidents. Like we've kind of done this broad spectrum view of this one small science concept. But imagine how many thousands of concepts are out there that you could do the same thing with, where you could be like, I love how this particular communication science works or whatever. I'm just pulling examples from the air. So that's not my best.
No, but I totally get your point.
I think there's so many opportunities to twist these ideas and turn them into your own thing and have something really unique and creative. Are you secretly saying that if I ride enough airplanes, I'm going to get a superpower?
I think probably. I mean, they are time travelers.
They are. I mean, especially in the direction you go.
There's a story for you right there.
There we go.
Everyone write it. I want to read it. Okay, what do we got next?
Let's see. Next week is going to be very special because next week is our 42nd episode. And you know what we have to do?
It's life, the universe, and everything.
It is. We have the answer to the question. And we're going to talk about it.
Everything. That is going to be so much fun.
I think it's going to be delightful.
Okay.
All right. Remember, if you have heard anything today that was insightful, extraordinary, or just downright entertaining, we do have a Patreon. If that's too much of a commitment for you, we also have a Buy Us a Coffee. Find the links in our description and whatever service you are listening to us on.
And man, don't miss this blog because it's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
It's my blog. I get to write it. So it's going to be very fun.
I'm going to be entertained. I know. It's been terrific.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Squirrel Podcast for the Distracted Writer with Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner. Please like and subscribe to our podcast for updates and new episodes, and find more information at our website, squirrelpodcast.com. Stay distracted, everyone.
And one of those cinematic,
Cinematic?
thank you.